The drama just exploded into full-blown chaos, and someone is about to watch it all crumble. At first, the world shrugged it off as another celebrity meltdown. Just another loud rant fading into the endless scroll. But this flips the entire game. Nicki Minaj halts her album rollout and starts tagging names like a spotlight magnet, calling major players out by name. She drags Jay-Z into the spotlight. She labels the Grammys a ritual. And just like that, an old feud reignites. Wendy Williams once lit that spark on live TV, mocking Minaj's husband over his convictions. Now, screenshots are everywhere. Old clips resurface like receipts no one thought would see daylight again. Insiders murmur about contracts, lawsuits, and reputations dangling by threads. Rumors swirl about $100 to $200 million tied to titles, plus a $53,000 judgment linked to Minaj. Wendy, trapped under court-ordered guardianship, calls her residence a luxury prison. This isn't shallow gossip anymore. Stakes are real. Minaj fingers powerful executives, accusing them of corruption. Critics strike back, dredging up controversy from her household history. Meanwhile, the silence from the top is deafening. No statements. No denials, just void. And sometimes that kind of quiet hits harder than noise. If this is retaliation, the target may not have even felt it yet. That's when chaos starts looking calculated. Strategic. Intentional. Wendy Williams goes live just days after Nicki quietly marries Kenneth Petty, doing exactly what built her brand. She pulls records, reads them bluntly. No fairy tale gloss. She names the prison time. Mentions the past conviction. Recalls history that stayed on public record. 2 days after the wedding, she states he served 7 years and is a registered offender. Facts, delivered straight. Then she lets the sarcasm linger. It lands perfectly. The marriage stops being private and looks like a public liability. Sources say that's when gossip flipped into humiliation. Minaj built her empire on controlling her story. She doesn't accept handed-down versions. She writes her own script. Now, the narrative slips. It's shaped by someone whose career is exposing vulnerabilities. Officially, it's talk show commentary. A host doing her job. But suddenly, defending herself becomes impossible once the response hits. Minaj tosses restraint out the window and goes full throttle on Queen Radio. She doesn't just shield her husband, she rips into Wendy Williams' image and personal life. She calls her demonic, drags up her failed marriage, and twists criticism into jealousy, bitterness, and moral decay. This isn't a polite clapback. It's a full-blown credibility challenge broadcast to millions. Industry eyes watch the escalation like hawks. No pause, no cooling down. The message is crystal clear. Question me, and I'll question you. Power shifts instantly. Attention jumps from a wedding to control, respect, and narrative ownership. Once that line is crossed, neutrality disappears. Instead of simmering, the fire spreads. One Wednesday morning, Minaj widens the battlefield further. She posts that her upcoming album won't drop and tags Jay-Z, declaring she's done and hopes he's happy. This is no vague shade. It's a public smack at a mogul whose company she isn't even signed to. The album had promised multiple release dates in late September and early October. Then, abruptly, it's pulled. Insiders note that artists don't cancel major rollouts without serious behind-the-scenes leverage. Such moves usually hint at secret negotiations or deeper conflicts. She claims $100 to $200 million is tied to title and unpaid stakes. She alleges Roc Nation tried and failed to sign her. Now the fight transcends personal drama, it's financial, and the numbers shift the tone. Drop a figure like $100 to $200 million in a public feud, and suddenly, it's boardroom territory. The 2021 sale of the title to Jack Dorsey's company for $297 million remains on record. Minaj links that deal to her claims for a significant cut. She escalates further, calling out Roc Nation CEO Desiree Perez by name, declaring her time is up. Shockwaves hit the industry immediately. Then another headline lands. A German security guard files to force the sale of Minaj's California mansion over $53,000 alleged assault claim. The filing hits in mid-October, swirling alongside her accusations. Legal paperwork now joins the saga, whether she likes it or not. People start connecting dots that weren't meant to align. Is this billionaire power play masquerading as activism? Or is financial pressure spilling into public war? Timing makes it feel explosive. And money isn't the endgame. On Grammy night, she posts again, calling the awards a ritual and warning of karmic backlash. She layers in faith, judgment, and condemnation. Then she escalates once more, accusing Jay-Z in words few artists dare, labeling him a predator, attaching old photos of him with Aaliyah and Beyoncé from 1996, 1997, and 2000. The images circulate again, ages written across them like pieces on an evidence board. The Grammys stay mute. Jay-Z stays silent. That silence. It's deafening, growing louder by the hour, becoming a force all its own. Meanwhile, critics drag up skeletons from Minaj's own family closet. Her brother got 25 years in 20. After this, critics label her inconsistent. Then the optics tighten even more. She declares her album won't drop until her contract is renegotiated and until she exposes what she calls sabotage, uncovered by an AICO investigation with Billboard. Sabotage becomes the headline, repeated over and over. She talks surveillance, listening devices, car tags, hacked accounts. The tone shifts from frustrated diva to a queen feeling surrounded. Outsiders can no longer tell where justified anger ends and isolation begins. Meanwhile, Wendy Williams' saga lingers in the background. In 2022, she's placed under court-appointed guardianship. In 2024, her guardian reveals diagnoses of frontotemporal dementia and progressive aphasia. At one point, she appears at a fifth-floor window, dropping a handwritten note, "Help Wendy." The image spreads like wildfire. She describes her corridor as a luxury prison. On radio, she says she can't even receive calls on her landline. These are documented facts, not rumors. Side by side with her past mocking of Minaj's marriage, the parallel hits heavy. The woman who once warned about reputational damage is now fighting to control her own story. That's why the old clip of Wendy reading Petty's record keeps resurfacing. Prophetic. Cruel. Did she expose a vulnerability that would haunt Minaj for years, or spark a chain reaction that never cooled? After that clash, Minaj hardens publicly. Criticism becomes spiritual warfare. She aligns politically in ways that push former allies away. She shows up at a White House event, calling herself the president's #1 fan. When Trevor Noah jokes about her Grammy absence, she responds with a barrage of posts. The list grows: Lizzo, Chrissy Teigen, Billy Porter. The circle of conflict expands so fast it maps the industry itself. This is no accident. It's someone bracing for impact from every angle. And then the big question hits: if this is strategy, why risk real contracts? If it's calculated, why invite legal exposure? If it's emotional, why target the same power hubs? Rock Nation, the Grammys, Billboard, veteran executives who've survived decades unblinking. Through it all, Jay-Z's camp stays mute. Silence can be a strategy. It can signal confidence. Either way, the void grows, and Minaj fills it with even more accusations. Every post cranks the stakes higher. Every allegation makes stepping back impossible. Meanwhile, Wendy Williams' guardianship reportedly costs around $25,800 a month for memory care. She insists she doesn't belong there. Her estate reportedly covers hourly legal oversight between $250 and $450. Cash drains quietly in the background while both women wage very public wars over narrative control. That tension sits at the heart of this story. One claims the industry is sabotaging her finances. The other claims the system is locking her down under the guise of protection. Both whisper about hidden forces and closed doors. Yet when Minaj ramps up her accusations, critics dredge up her family history. When Wendy demands freedom, her medical diagnosis dominates headlines. Officially, it's simple: a volatile artist venting, a vulnerable host under care. But timing, escalation, financial strain, and reputational hits, they do not line up neatly. Silence from the top remains total. The longer it holds, the less this feels like chaos and the more it feels like a slow, deliberate collapse. Step back, and the pattern becomes clear. Nicki Minaj doesn't just clash with critics, she goes after institutions, framing herself as a lone voice against a machine she calls corrupt and spiritually broken. That stance grows stronger as doors close. She talks about paid moles inside her circle. Claims her documentary stalled to hide abuse. Says projects are delayed to bleed her financially until she bends. Industry insiders note that words like surveillance, sabotage, and conspiracy usually signal either intense pressure or deep distrust. Outside, pressure and paranoia can look identical. In an industry run on NDAs and quiet blacklists, absence of proof doesn't equal absence of consequence. That grey area leaves plenty of room for speculation. Wendy Williams built her empire differently. For decades, she made a career exposing uncomfortable truths. She said what others wouldn't, earning fear and respect alike. When she tangled with hip-hop royalty, she survived, immortalized in lyrics, mocked in diss tracks, yet still standing. As long as she delivered ratings, the machine tolerated her. Now, she doesn't hold the microphone. She's the subject of court filings and medical evaluations. Her mental capacity is publicly debated. She insists she's not impaired. Others insist she is. That debate decides who controls her estate, visitors, phone access, and daily life. For someone whose brand was built on controlling narrative, losing that grip cuts deep. The symmetry with Minaj is uncanny. Both built brands on confrontation, both challenged powerful men publicly, and both watched their private lives pulled apart once their accusations escalated. Once the accusations ramp up, their carefully curated images start cracking. Stop playing along, and suddenly you're branded unstable. Insiders point to timing. When Minaj escalates her feud with Roc Nation and throws massive financial claims into the mix, critics resurrect family history like it's a sport. When Wendy Williams calls her residence a prison and pushes for autonomy, medical details and vulnerable footage spread like wildfire. No, it doesn't prove coordination, but it shows how reputation becomes currency in a system where image is power. Money flows through everything. Minaj frames her war around unpaid stakes and delayed releases. Wendy's fight revolves around who signs checks and who calls the shots on spending. Her estate reportedly covers monthly housing costs that rival luxury penthouses, plus ongoing legal bills. What started as a temporary guardianship becomes indefinite once she revokes consent. Indefinite isn't just a word, it's a warning. Exiting isn't simple. For Minaj, the unreleased album becomes leverage. For Wendy, autonomy is leverage. In both cases, control over output and access rules the game. Who decides when music drops? Who decides when a former talk show host can leave her building? Who controls which story hits the public first? Sources say Minaj feels punished for refusing to play ball with certain interests. She claims she's in her most creative period, even while threatening to scrap the project entirely. To some, that reads as negotiation. To others, it screams instability. Meanwhile, former colleagues say Wendy is sharper than headlines suggest, alert, present, fully aware. Supporters gather outside her building, waving signs, demanding freedom, questioning banks and guardians alike. Legal scholar Nina Kahn publicly notes that most people under guardianship rarely regain independence. That insight hangs heavy. Once a system brands someone incapable, reversing it requires approval from the very structure they're challenging. Then the political chessboard shifts. Minaj shows up at a White House event, praises a president she once criticized, and urges Christians and members of the LGBTQ community not to vote Democrat. The rhetoric slices her audience in half. Suddenly, her rebellion looks less like industry reform and more like a bold, high-stakes power realignment. Wendy Williams' history collides with politics in yet another twist. She exposed secrets and hinted at misconduct long before social media amplified the noise. Her list of enemies is long, documented, and ruthless. When she vanishes from daily broadcasting only to reappear under supervision, speculation spreads like wildfire. The truth likely sits somewhere between protection and restriction, but grey areas are perfect for conspiracy theories. What keeps resurfacing is usefulness. As long as Wendy delivered ratings, she was an asset. As long as Nicki Minaj delivers streams and attention, she stays valuable. But the moment either threatens the structures that profit from them, volatility flips from asset to liability. Industry insiders rarely moralize conflicts, they talk risk. An artist publicly accusing billion-dollar partners of fraud? Risk. A talk show host calling out powerful figures? Risk. One is managed through contracts and silence, the other through courts and medical framing. That's the quiet theory circulating, even if no executive confirms it. Not every move points outward, some are personal choices. When Minaj links every setback to sabotage, her options shrink. When Wendy's past behavior is documented, critics question her clarity. Public actions linger. Posts stay. Footage stays. Real pressure can coexist with self-inflicted credibility hits. Speaking uncomfortable truths can still undermine your position. That duality makes this saga dangerously volatile. There are no clean heroes here. Silence from the top persists. Jay-Z offers no rebuttal. Rock Nation stays mum. The Grammys ignore ritual claims. Guardianship courts hold no press briefings. That vacuum fills with fans, bloggers, and former allies. Social media becomes courtroom, therapy session, and battlefield simultaneously. Minaj supporters crown her a queen being blackballed. Wendy supporters call her a pioneer being silenced. Critics label both unstable. The truth. Never officially declared. Debates rage in comment sections and live streams. The longer official channels stay quiet, the more the power shifts to narrative warfare. In the end, this story refuses a single lane. It's a marriage that sparked a feud. An album weaponized into leverage. A guardianship that feels permanent. Massive sums of money. Reputations vanishing overnight. Two women who built careers on confrontation now clashing with systems that seem immovable. Are these rebellions against real corruption, or spirals fueled by ego and isolation? Are powerful players tightening control behind the scenes, or are these collapses self-made? And if both claim they're fighting the same machine, why are they standing alone?